This is Sawi B from Tumblr and DeviantArt, and I am going to run through a quick coloring tutorial on Photoshop CS5. So I already have a file opened up of my character Ziad, and I'm just going to shift some stuff around and set up my layers. So I've received lots of questions about how to color, like my coloring style basically, which is really easy. It's something I learned from Fobs actually. So if you've ever checked out like Fobs' like coloring tutorials and stuff like that, this is kind of where I picked it up from. And I could probably link you to the original tutorial on DeviantArt as well. So I open up my file, and then I set up a separate layer above my sketch layer, and then I will set that to multiply. And what multiply does is it will add color without covering up my lines. So I'm going to set up just sort of like a skin tone for Ziad, my space pirate, and I will just start coloring. I'll just focus on like a small area, like we'll just go through his face, I suppose. Okay, so, and like the brushes really depend on your own personal preference. Like I like to use like the soft round one when I'm coloring skin. And like when I'm sketching, I use different ones. Like I've downloaded pencil brushes for my sketch layers, but since this is a traditional sketch, I don't really have to draw anything. I'm just coloring. So you have to be kind of careful. It's sort of like you're coloring in the lines of like a coloring book or something like that. So see how it just adds to the lines? Like it'll make things darker, and sometimes that's what you want, and sometimes it's, you know, not what you want. So you kind of have to sort of play around and like mess with what you want to do. So. But this is just my personal way of coloring traditional sketches. So I'm just going to color a little bit, and we'll take it from there. I'll start on his hair. Yeah, maybe this isn't what I want. But you kind of get the idea. Am I right? Am I right? Like, it's really up to you. Like, and everybody has a different coloring style. This is just my personal approach. I've kind of picked up a few different techniques, not just from Fobs' tutorials alone, but Fobs is a big inspiration of mine. So I always kind of reference their stuff when I'm coloring, just because it's fun and really similar to like what I want to do. So that's kind of, you know, what you should do when you're like learning art or like trying to find new techniques, is like look at other artists you like. Little weird goatee thing. But yeah, so it's just about having fun, and I feel like Bob Ross right now. Like, yeah, just sort of doing what you want to do with it, because it's really up to you as the artist, and your choices are really limitless. And you know, like the different, like there are different blend modes for these. So you could do color burn, which would, you know, you can kind of just see what they do just based off of like how you're coloring it. Like you can screen it, which looks really weird. It's not what you want. And you can always like learn more about these on the actual Adobe website. Like overlay is really great when I'm using a light source, but since I'm coloring, it's just multiplies the man, my main man. Okay, so I'm kind of just doing this really quickly, not focusing too much on it, but let's see. Like I said, I'm kind of half-assing it. I, of course, like clean up like the edges, and you know, typically I'd put away like sort of, or I'd erase, oh my gosh. Photoshop is being a little weird today, but I haven't used it in a while, so I think that might be why. But what was I gonna say? I don't remember what I was going to say now, which is really embarrassing. But anyway, so we're going to go through, and I'll just shade it real quick as well. And I do a multiply layer on that as well. It's kind of just like building up, sort of like you're painting, like adding layers of watercolor to like give it more depth. But you know, I'm not using watercolor. I'm using digital stuff. And typically I would like go and I would make like a color palette before I started coloring. But I'm kind of lazy today. Oh, and so for the shading layer, I usually tone down the opacity a little bit, because if I were to just color at like 100% opacity on top of like the other layers, it would get like too dark, and sometimes that's not what I want. So I will undo that, and I will tone it down to like around 70%. That's usually what I do, like in the 70-80 range. Just kind of softly color, sort of like where I want the shading to go, and you know, kind of like the points of reference, I guess. I don't know. See, I'm kind of half-assing it. I'm sorry, you guys. That's kind of what I do. So that was my super quick and sort of lame coloring tutorial, but I hope you find it helpful. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message on Tumblr or send me a message on DeviantArt, and I would be more than happy to help you out. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day.